All right, folks. So what we're going to do is sort of share with you a little bit more about what ACTivate is. Uh, Hopefully, it'll give you a bit of a better idea what we're trying to accomplish with this program, and also where we hope to eventually get to with this over the next 12 months. So why did we start this? Well, about 3 years ago, we were having conversations with lots of communities all over, not just Atlantic Canada, but across the country. And there was this sort of apathy that had been setting in to a lot of communities. And I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, it is what it is. There was a lot of that saying happening, and it was very much of things are out of our control and let's just accept it. That's the way things are. And we're like, damn, like there's got to be a better way. And we were doing lots of programming and lots of different things. And we came to the realization that community development isn't programming. Community development isn't something that can be completed in 12 months or 24 months or 36 months. It's actually just a way of being in a community. And we needed to understand, how could we flip the script from this process of what we don't have in our communities to actually uncovering all of this abundance that exists in our communities. And really what we're trying to do with ACTivate is to make the invisible visible in our communities so that we can start from this strengths that exist, and we can start to understand, how do we use all of those pieces to make our communities as good and better as possible. And, one of the things and mottos that we've sort of struck on is that a great place to live is a great place to visit. We've moved away from this concept around, the typical destination development process, which, starts ticking off a bunch of assets and, how do we market these? How do we create things? How do we get product to a specific person, to reflecting back on, if we put the citizen at the center of this process and we start to have conversations about what has meaning to them, will that have this beautiful benefit of creating this incredible sort of mobilization that can happen in communities that we believe will have this benefit of creating a collective enthusiasm for the economic development opportunities of tourism. So you're going to hear lots of things where you may scratch your head and you're going to say, well, why are we talking about substance abuse? Why are we talking about reconciliation? Why are we talking about housing? Why aren't we talking about how to market this to somebody in Toronto or Montreal? Parts of what we believe is that we need to have holistic conversations in our community. Overall, though, we need to ensure that you understand that this isn't GMIST, this isn't Cody, this is you. And that's the foundation of what we're trying to do here, is to invest in you as community members, as neighbors, as citizens, to understand how you take hold of your own, sort of destiny of what you want to do within your communities. So ACTivate is definitely a different type of community development program. It definitely takes a different mindset. I find that we laugh at ourselves. We've been at this now for 3 years, and every now and then we'll find ourselves laughing at oh my God, we're falling back into this sort of needs-based approach of peering up over the fence to see if the grass is greener on the other side, kind of thing, to, okay, how do we solve that problem ourselves? How do we actually look at the strengths that we have? So you're going to hear lots of that. And what I'm gonna drive home as well is there's no magic bullet here. There's no, sort of magic of, here, follow this process and it's going to get you everything you want. What we do believe, though, is that you're going to follow your own path. And this isn't a one size fits all approach. And you need to take what has meaning for you and for your communities and put it into play. Part of what we're saying is, give yourself the freedom to make mistakes. And that's hard. We live in a very much institutionalized approach to lots of these programs where you got to complete something in 12 months because the funding mechanism says you got to do it. What we've said is, to hell with that. What we're really concerned on is, how can you use this for the benefit of your community if that's 12 months, if that's 24 months, if that's 25 years, if that's a lifetime. That is the benefit of these types of things. That what we're trying to share here is that this has to be a way of being. This just has to be something that becomes normal in your community and not tagged to a piece of programming or funding. Learning will very much be hands-on and immersive. We are going to be providing sort of some guideline approaches to things, but this is very much us learning from one another. We've done one offering of this with 35 incredible people who came from all over, from Ontario through to Atlantic Canada. And the one thing that if you were to talk with them was, like, we zigged and we zagged and we moved all over the place based on the level of skills that were in that room and what each of them could share. So that's an amazing piece on this. So if you're just coming and you're expecting to sit there quietly and absorb something from us, probably not the type of program for you. But if you're coming and you want to co-learn and you want to be curious and you want to share, that's the type of sort of participants that we're looking for this. Once again, I think it's wrong to think that, you know, we can create this one program that's going to apply all over the place. What we're trying to provide to you is some guideline component pieces here, but then for you to understand how this might you know, be applied in your community. And as you know, that last one, you know, I think it's pretty obvious. It's not necessarily a step-by-step process or a one-size-fits-all. And, you know, sometimes we've been at it for, we laugh, we've been at it for almost 40 years in Grouse Mourne. And, you know, sometimes we've taken a step forward, sometimes we've taken a couple of steps back, sometimes we've gone sideways, but it's all been in motion, if that makes any sense. It's not that we're just static and we're sitting. We're experimenting, we're pushing at the edges, we're trying to figure out where can we go with our community to make it the best place to live for our citizens, but also, you know, in the end result as well, from a tourism perspective, is how can that be the best spot for a visitor at the same time. Program participation, this time out, we're looking for clusters. We're looking for applications and participants to come from community, and that is 3 to 5 people. What we're looking for in that 3 to 5 is community leaders, change makers, builders, practitioners. They just need to be passionate about the community and want to learn. They want to grow their networks and skill sets, and they're above all, they're curious, and they want to actually learn how to potentially do some things in a different approach. So this will provide an avenue for like-minded, community builders to thrive. It'll build a network of skilled community-minded people, and it's really about sharing knowledge and preparing not only for the future, but I also think for the present as well. I mean, part of what we're trying to say is that, and I think this is where we get into trouble with lots of our developmental programs, is that wait until we get the plan done. And that's not the reality of life. We need to be able to see movement. We need to be able to see action. We need to be able to create that mobilization. So how do we do that in the present? And how do we do that tomorrow, the next day, without losing sight of sort of the vision that where we want to get to? Communities will be selected based on their application. As I said, it'll be a cluster of 3 to 5 people from each community. What we'll do is provide a series of learning opportunities and support. And, what we started with was a 5-month process in the first one. Well, I laugh at it now because we've just continuously added things onto it. So after the 5 months, we had such a strong group that wanted to stay connected. We started doing touch points where we had learning sessions led by the community members that were part of this program, but we also had conversations about, well, what else could we add? So we added a trip to Nebraska, which was an amazing learning experience for these folks. We've also added in a community mobilization piece with an incredible number of people that have come together that had expanded it to anywhere from 5 to 15 people in their communities. So I guess what I'm saying here is that sometimes you'll see specific things And sometimes we'll be having conversations and we'll be opportunistic and we'll say, well, let's just go do that. Let's see what that looks like. And what does that mean? And maybe it'll be with a small group of the participants, and maybe it'll be with the whole group. Once again, one size does not fit all. What we ask, though, on each of these things is that when you come back, how do you share that with the larger group as well? Each community will come out and create their own action plan. It'll be unique. Once again, there's no magic bullet here. So if you're coming into this and you're thinking, this is a destination development process where we're going to create a plan. No, it's not, but it may be for your community if that's where you want to go with that. And that's what has meaning. One of the beautiful things that came out of the conversations we had is people appreciated that we didn't actually pin them into a box and say, you've got to have this plan done by, December of 2023. They went back and we had people from employment services, community safety, community housing, community education, as well as lots of DMO and municipal folks. I think part of this was they appreciated having conversations across a wide spectrum. So when you're thinking about, if you're thinking about applying, I would challenge you, especially those that are coming from a tourism lens, is how do I actually expand that beyond, my hotelier or my DMO or my restaurant, or like who are those gems in my community who sometimes get overlooked because they may not necessarily see themselves in the tourism industry, but they're a key cog to what makes my community move forward. We'll offer a full scholarship to participants that covers the majority of not only the tuition, so it'll cover the full tuition, but also the travel costs to Gross Morin. So we'll cover the 6 nights accommodation in Gross Morin, and we'll provide up to $1,000 to offset any flights or travel costs, those driving from Newfoundland and Labrador to Rocky Harbor. Sort of the program structures, we're looking to have the applications in November. We'll be looking at sort of those evaluation pieces and getting the community selected, and then hoping to try to do an onboarding session before Christmas. It'll be a very unique opportunity, I think, to bring sort of these 5-6 communities together and learn a little bit. And this is just about prepping people for what's coming. In January, we'll look to launch the program. So we'll be doing a number of online sessions. We'll also, which is a little bit different than the previous one, is we'll actually be coming and doing on-site visits within each of those communities. And part of this is the opportunity to understand how to start looking at your community differently and to be able to collect those core stories. We believe that, this concept of a great place to live is a great place to visit is really about understanding what are those stories to be found and to be treasured in our communities. And they can be as small or as big as we can dream in many, many ways. So part of that process is sort of situating the program within the community, helping to start that process of discovery within the community, and also for us to have a little bit of a visual understanding of what's happening within each of those communities as well. March and April will be about the communities sort of discovering those core stories. They'll start to collect some of those. What we'll be doing is having those pulled together, and they'll be positioned in the Cody learning platform, and they'll get shared with the other communities, so they get to get a sort of fuller picture of what's going on. It's actually a very fun process, and it's also one of those ones where we'll probe and we'll ask you questions. Well, why? Why is this important? Why does this have meaning to you? So these are sort of the beginning pieces of us trying to understand where those gems and where those invisible pieces that we can make visible can come into play from our communities. So in May, we will come together and we'll basically have you coming in May the 5th, which is a Sunday, and you'll stay in through to May the 11th. So it's it's intense in many, many ways. And we added an extra day, and that was from the feedback that we got from the 35 people that we had in the spring in Gros Morne. And this is an opportunity for us to really dive into asset-based community development. And part of this is learning, yes, the tools. They were amazing sort of aha moments for lots of people, because what we do is we sort of pull the curtain back and we throw you into our communities, and you actually act as sort of asset-based community development leads in a live community situation. And the last one we did, we had almost 70 community members come out for the 35 people that were there. And the 35 people led a series of learning sessions for this community. What the beautiful thing was, it was a sort of twofold learning process. It gave us the opportunity to test out these tools from an asset-based community development perspective, but it also allowed the community to really see some things completely different in the normal approaches, which was we shove people in a room, somebody throws up a PowerPoint and goes through a bunch of, well, here's where all of the tourists came from, in 2023. This is the economic development, blah, 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 all of this, to what is it that we really want in our communities? What do we treasure? What is it that we're most proud of? And how can we build from that? So what we'll be doing again is, as we build through those learning pieces around some of the tools and different approaches in asset-based community development, you'll get a live opportunity in another one of our communities to practice things with this community group. It's been an amazing learning, as I said, from both sides. Then we'll, at the end of that, we hope to have you sort of situated, and why we added the extra day is to help you understand how you get back into your community and now mobilize around some specific things. The hard part, once again, is now you need to go back and do that engagement. And what we're saying to folks is, I know you came with an idea. Is that idea shared in your community widely? Go back and let's test this and let's see what that looks like now that you have some of these different tools. And is this the piece that you really want to hang your hat on as you work towards the sort of goals that you've set for yourself? Once again, this can be as big or as small as you want. There's no right, there's no wrong on this. What we have is a lot of communities that were part of destination development programs that came to this, and what they took away from it was this opportunity to go back and do a re-engagement, because they were struggling with the mobilization piece. And it was always about, well, here's your plan. Now who's going to implement? And now they were seeing, well, maybe we didn't really allow people to see themselves in that plan. How do we actually go back and find out what truly has meaning to them? And then how do we pull them in so that we can mobilize? Lots of the conversations we had, and those of us that are in community development know it's the loneliest place to be at times. Because people are looking at you to sort of carry the load, unfortunately. And we need to be able to share that across our communities. And this is the key, especially in an asset-based community development model, is how do we share that? How do we take the burden off of just a few people? And then how do we allow for those people who traditionally maybe we haven't recognized as leaders in our communities to come forward? So there'll be lots of conversations on that and how we do it in an efficient and effective way. We'll have monthly check-ins July through August, and then September, November, there'll be further touch points and learning opportunities. Once again, similar to what we did with this last group, that might manifest itself in a learning tour that we'll do. It might manifest itself in us bringing in further expertise, or it might manifest itself in somebody within a specific community coming forward and say, hey, this is where I'm at in my community. I think it could be a great learning opportunity. Can we bring the other 5 communities here? So as you can see, there's lots of opportunity for us, I think, to share this learning journey together. And that's the whole goal of this at the end of the day. And then in December, it'll lead to the course completion and celebration, and the certificate from St. Francis Xavier University. And that is, so everyone who participates in this, and Addie's going to talk about this in a bit, everyone who participates in this will actually get an accredited university certificate from St. FX in asset-based community development. and I'm sure I've said that wrong, and Addie will correct me on it at the end. It's a nice piece because it is, I think it's one of those ways that we can acknowledge that people have put work and effort into this. And yes, this isn't our, I'm going to solely admit, this isn't our primary reason for offering this, to give you a university certificate. The beautiful thing about partnering with, the Coady Institute, which has an incredible reputation in this asset-based community development realm, is that opportunity to provide that accreditation for the 3 to 5 community members from the participation side of things. So I think it's a nice add-on. It's the first time we've ever been able to do that in our 20 years of existence. So it's just one of those things I think that adds a bit more value to the whole process. So I'm going to turn it over to Addie. She's going to tell you a little bit more about Coady and then some of the key themes that we will and you just tell me when you want to move to the next slide, Addie. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess I'll start with a little bit more about the Coady Institute and a little bit more about those certificates. So the Coady Institute is located under St. FX University, and the main goal of the Institute is really to support skill development for change makers in the application of citizen-led, asset-based, and community-driven development and leadership towards economic and social change. A lot of that work happens internationally. We're working to expand local programming a lot as well, as with this program. And a big part of what we do is that educational programming. And we do that on a lot of topics, but ABCD, the asset-based citizen-led development, is probably among what we're best known for. So the certificate that you'd receive for completing this program would come from Coady and St. FX. And so that is, I think, recognizable on its own, coming from Coady, with a lot of those education programs that have been happening for years and years. I don't know the exact number, but a long time. But we've recently partnered with St. FX to include continuing education units as part of those certificates. And so those are partial credits that are recognized by universities across Canada as sort of micro-credentials that can be eventually stacked into other certifications or course credits if you would like them to be. So that's where that university credit piece comes in. It's a really neat opportunity. We're really excited to be able to offer that, and then to offer that for more programs moving forward, because it's a cool bonus to get out of a course like this one. Looking at key themes for what you will hopefully take away from ACTivate if at the end of the program is starting with uncovering the stories of citizen-led development in your communities. So these are stories that capture what is unique and compelling about your place and its peoples. And we know that every community has those stories that can make a huge difference in how they see themselves and how they carry themselves in the world. We're also looking at introducing asset-based and citizen-led development, so that ABCD that we've mentioned a few times as an approach for helping citizens drive their own community development, and helping enable institutions as well to support and invest in what communities are already doing and are passionate about. So making it beneficial for all sides, because we know that everyone benefits when we focus on assets and what's working in communities rather than focusing on what isn't. I guess we can go to the next slide. We'll also be looking at providing tools and methods for a whole host of things. That includes mapping community strengths and assets, identifying community-based tourism opportunities that can be realized by drawing on and mobilizing those strengths and assets, as well as lots of other tools as well for facilitation, monitoring and evaluation, action planning, all sorts of things. And then finally, in identifying pathways for enabling institutions and organizations to support and invest in tourism initiatives that communities are leading and passionate about. I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Addie. Appreciate that. We're basically towards the end here, so I'm gonna just stop sharing. Bring this back up. I think one of the key things for each of you to think about is, as a takeaway, part of what we're trying to do is to help the people that come and are part of this, is to understand how to, I'm going to just keep hammering away on this, as how to start believing in the abundance that exists in their communities. Too often I find that, we're always peering up and over the fence to find answers outside of our own communities. We believe that lots of those answers reside in our communities. And unfortunately, what we've tended to do is believe that those answers come in the form of some sort of plan or some sort of research piece. Those are key components of lots of this work. At the same time, we need to be able to take ownership. We need to be able to understand how we can do that engagement, and we need to understand how we can do it in effective and efficient ways. And we had the biggest aha moment with one group, and it was incredible. This young woman came up to us and was like, "Jonathan, like, I really want to be part of this." I said, "But I don't have time to come sit and listen for 2 hours in a conference room to a bunch of PowerPoint, blah blah blah, all this type of stuff. I've got 2 kids. I work. My husband works. These are my skill sets. This is the amount of time I have. Is how can you use me? Because I want to be part of this." And I was like, that is a great challenge for all of us to think about, is how do we actually start to create space where people can bring their gifts, and that we can receive their gifts in ways that we traditionally haven't done. So to me, I wished I had the magic, answer that I could share and say, hey, if you just do this, you're going to get this. To me, what we've learned with these 35 folks that have come is that, I'm sure that if you had conversations with them, they could tell you 35 different reasons and sort of results, which is great. I love that. Is, just start moving, start having conversations, start to think about how you can have those conversations with your whole community. Now, am I saying you're going to be able to bring everyone along? I mean, reality is that that's not how lots of this stuff works. You'll hear lots of them say, we went out and we hit this roadblock, and you're going to hit lots of these along the way. And I'm like, great, how did you get around that? And then it was them leading the conversation about how they actually sort of maneuvered and used some of the skills that they learned from the asset-based developmental tools to move around that and create an opportunity to bring at least a group of their community together that had the magic of benefiting those people that didn't even want to come along on it as well. So to me, there's lots of cool things here. There's lots of things you're going to hear come out of me that I'm going to say, I don't know. I don't have the answer, but oh my God, I'm so curious. Let's find the answers. Let's walk together and let's see where we can go with this thing. And I had people call me and they're like, well, I couldn't do this. And I was like, well, why couldn't you do this? And when was a time when you could do it? Well, when I did it this way or that way. And I'm like, okay, how do we make that happen? And what we've done is we've been able to come together. And sometimes it is about finding a few dollars here and there to make something work. What we've also said is, if you had no money tomorrow, how could you still move forward? And that's been an interesting thing for lots of people to think about. I will say finally, before I shut up and let you guys ask some questions, is that we've invited lots of provincial, federal, municipal people. And I would encourage each of you, if you're thinking about applying, is if you do work hand in hand with any of those individuals, and they're a key part of what you're doing in your community, is to invite them along. We had them in the last one, and it actually led to some incredible conversations and aha moments around how we need to rethink some of that programming and policy side of things, because they were, lots of those government individuals were hearing, we can't build community in 12 months. We can't build community inside a program. But what we can do is provide within these programs and within these budgets some timeline and some guideline pieces that I think can have really some incredible impacts in the community. So as you're thinking about that, and you're thinking about applying, is who could potentially those folks be as well? So I'm going to stop there and ask if anybody has any questions they want to fire off. And if you want to, just unmute yourself and fire away, and I'll try to answer it. Go ahead,
I
Jake.
have a question. The 3 to 5 participants that you're looking for, are you looking for something specific within those 3 to 5? Like one person has this kind of business and one person is part of the city and like that kind of thing?
Not at all. I think for what we're looking for is 3 to 5 community members who want to do something, that want to make something happen in their community. I feel like we do a disservice when we say with lots of these, well, I got to get my restaurateur, I got to have my accommodator, I've got to have my tour operator. And, you know, you get 5 people who are like, well, I'm not sure why I'm here. Jake just told me I had to come, and, you know, I'm part of the local tourism. What I would urge you is to think about, like, inside your professional realm and your personal realm, like, who are the people in your community that you feel like could have a meaningful impact on this? So that might mean early childhood educators. Like, how do we get youth involved in these things? That could be senior sort of living folks. Like, how do I use my things that are happening in elder care in the conversation here? We have lots of things happening in our tourism where we've shown how vital those retirees are in telling story of community. How do I use disability experts? How do I use the knitters? How do I use to me, we do a disservice when we only think about that traditional core group on this. And I think just keep thinking about this. That great place to live is a great place to visit. And what makes a great place to live? To me, it isn't about somebody coming from Toronto or Montreal. It's actually about what you want to accomplish in your community. And what does that look like? And to me, the success from the tourism piece should always support what that livability looks like in the community. And I think we do, once again, a disservice when we just put the visitor at the center of all of the conversation here, and we don't think about what is it that we truly want in our community. And do we want this or do we not want this? Do we want 200,000 visitors or do we not want 200,000 visitors? So to me, and it's not about us dictating, it's about providing you with the skills to then go have those conversations, if that makes any sense.
I'm not sure. You're looking for the people that are passionate about their community.
I'm not looking for them. You're looking for them.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
To me, this is all about what you want in your community, right? And I hate to harp on this, but it's not about you trying to fit into program parameters or anything like that. What we're looking for is people who are curious, people who understand that. Because if you're looking for me to give you a book on how to do this stuff, this ain't the program. This is about discovery for all of us. I don't have the answers. But oh my God, do I have a level of curiosity that's off the charts. And I want to see what we could accomplish if we rethink some things and we actually started to understand our community and the treasures and the gifts that each of us have. You know, and part of that piece is sometimes we need to look beyond what we traditionally looked at, especially on the tourism side of things. David, you got a question?
Yes, actually, I'm actually the mayor of Trinity Bay North, which is in another community. So is this geared to community specific, or is it geared towards, or can it be geared towards, you know, a region as a whole, and that when it comes down to it?
That can be completely up to you and how you feel like you want to approach this. To me, once again, there's no one way or the other. If you feel like there's something that you want to try to do from a regional perspective, I think we're open to hearing that. You know, the thing that I would put out there is that when you get down to this from a regional sort of lens, is that community generally happens in that neighborhood level sort of contingent where, neighbor to neighbor, we can have conversations and we can understand. From a regional perspective, I still think it can work in that and there's a reason why we have 3 or 5 people coming, is that 3 to 5 people can start to trickle down, and maybe that 3 to 5 now becomes 75 or 80. That's the hope on lots of these things, but there's no correct or incorrect. So, we've had some people who've reached out to us about that coming from a regional thing. But if it's just about a regional plan, we're going to challenge you of how does that regional plan, is it just a marketing plan, or is it a actual way of thinking about our communities differently? And then how we can support that level of development and neighborhood sort of conversation in each of those communities, without losing sight that each of those communities have a distinct story to tell.
Yeah.
One of the things that we learned, a big hit in the face, was years ago, we in Grossmore, and we're like, and I can't believe I even said this, like, I'd like to go back and kick myself in the ass like 10 years ago, of going in and saying, like, nobody knows that they're in, this community or that community. They just know they're in Grossmore. So let's come together and let's promote ourselves as Grossmore. Well, holy crap. I'm like, what that does is that actually says to a person, your story doesn't matter. And once again, we were only thinking about this from the visitor perspective. And yeah, it may not, if you were to ask that visitor, where were you? They might say Grossmore, but they will tell you about that incredible conversation they had with that fisherman in Trout River. And to say to somebody who was a citizen of that community that, we got to come together and we got to market and we got to do all this as one entity. Yes, there's agreement around some of those things because we need to leverage opportunity. But we also need to understand that there's distinct stories to be told, and that each of those are distinct communities. And I think when we're talking about lots of this regionalization that's happening across Atlantic Canada and across the country, regionalization doesn't make community. Services do not make community. People make community. And neighbor to neighbor is what we need to realize. So I just would urge you to think about, what it is you want to accomplish. And I think there's great opportunities to bring a regional group together. We'll challenge them then, how does that go back and how does that get down into that neighborhood level with the conversations that can then feed up into lots of regionalized approaches to things.
Okay, no, you've answered it quite well. Thank you.
Other questions? Is there anything in the chat? Let me just
Sorry, I have a question. I raised my hand, but
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shislane O'Hanley. I'm in Stratford, Prince Edward Island. And I'm just curious about the 3 to 5 person cohort. I did hear you mention in the last answer that we go out and find those people. So I just want to understand the process a little better about the application process around whether, I have ideas around asset-based community development for my town and my regional area. So now do I go out and find other people in my community to make that application of the 3 to 5 of us together want to participate in this? Maybe you could give me a little more information around that.
Exactly, just as you had placed it. So what we're looking for is for the main applicant. So let's say it's yourself, of identifying. So what we're hoping in that, and when you look at the applications, it says, who have you thought of? And what we would probably do is to come back and to say, okay, have you got a commitment from these folks, and who are these, people? I think, part of that would be is having the opportunity to just have a conversation with those 3 to 5 people. And I'll tell you this as well. We want to make sure that people have a good understanding of what this is. So, if there's that need for us to beam in and have a conversation with the community, I think we could do that as well. This will be recording will be up on our site. So if you had people that wanted to have a look at that, they could have a look at that as well. But I think for us, it's not about us dictating. What we're really looking for is, in that main applicant, to have people who have 3 or 5, community members that, they've either been working with or they think that they might be able to reach out to. And maybe you start with one or two, and then you're thinking, well, maybe those one or two can give you some insights into some other people who may be of interest to bring into these types of things. But
Okay,
yeah,
that's great. That's super helpful. That's what I was thinking, but I wanted to make
Yep.
sure. I wasn't sure whether the cohort got organized on your end based on the applications that came in, or whether it was us saying we want to work with this group of people to make this thing happen.
Yep.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Great, thank you.
Wendy.
Hi, I'm curious, I guess, about the selection criteria and how you choose who will be accepted into the program.
I think, what we're looking for is, how were they able to sort of come together? Were they able to find a good collection of sort of community members? Hopefully it hasn't been, like it's not I don't want to harp on like a marketing or a branding kind of thing, but people who want to actually go beyond that type of thing to a deeper meaning within their community. So that's sort of what we'll be looking at. And I suspect that we'll be reaching out and having conversations with people as well, to see if we can get further information out of this. But, there's not, if you're asking me if I've got a grid and I'm checking, no. And it isn't like I'm going to say, I've got to take one from Newfoundland and Labrador, one from Ontario, one from Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. What we're looking for is an understanding of what we're trying to do to sort of walk with you versus lead something here. Like we need people who, as I've said, that are curious, that want to look at some things in some unique ways. And I think the level of from our side of that evaluation will come in like with some of that information we'll ask for and how you've sort of presented. Well, this is the thing that we're thinking about doing in the community. And, once again, don't be surprised if somebody emails back, well, could you expand on that a little bit for us, type of thing.
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
Jules?
Yes, I love what you're doing here as far as community and curiosity, because it's so beautiful to see that there are people out there like that. It just melts my heart to know that there's an entire initiative like this. So thank you, first of all. But secondly, I think you answered it in the last couple of seconds of answering Wendy's question. But that is, if we have an idea of what we think we want to bring in. So we're here on the Bay of Fundy in St. Martin's, and we were looking at potentially getting a dark sky designation, right? And that is one of the things that we would like to, seemingly would like to go in with, but that might not actually be what happens in the end. That's the idea, right? Is that we kind of go in thinking, okay, this would be a really great idea, and we think it'd be great for the community, but then actually working together and going, okay, well, wait a second, maybe this is more important, or maybe as well as this, we need to integrate this. Is that kind of the idea?
Bang on. Like if I went back and we'd probably all laugh when we go back and look at the 35 people that we took in the last one, what they started with their idea and what it ended up at. That's the beautiful thing about what we're trying to do here is let's give ourselves some freedom. Let's not box ourselves in. I don't know about you, but it always makes me sort of just cringe when I have got to fill out some application for some program and I have to actually give them what the outcome is right at the very beginning. And in order to qualify for whatever amount of money or whatever. And I'm sure the funders who are going to come back and evaluate us are going to look at me like I've had horns coming out of my head. But what I've said is let's just go and let's evaluate this based on the people and what they took away from it. And I can guarantee you that the outcome side, where we see the economic spinoffs, the social spinoffs, all of those things, I'm going to bet my hat on this, that they will actually be improved metrics coming out of it on the other side. But right now, what I've said is let's just go. Let's see what happens. Let's put our trust in one another, and not in some specific program, but in one another. And I think when we come together and we can do that and we can share, and I'm going to harp on this, we can share each other's gifts talents, skills, that there's some incredible things that we can pull off at the end. One final question, and then I'm going to let you go. Anybody? Awesome. Well, I thank you for your time. I hope we've sparked some interest in this process, and I look forward to seeing some applications from some of you. So once again, take care, and I'll put this recording up on our site. I'll probably go up either later today or tomorrow if you want to direct people to have a view of it as well. And if you do have any questions or you want to have a chat further, feel free to reach out to us. You can either give us a shout. All our contact information is on the GMIST site, so either by phone or via email. Thanks, everyone.
I just want to ask Jonathan, the application is on the GMIST site, is that correct?
On the GMIST site, it's under the ACTivate. So gmist.ca, and you'll just go to the programs piece. So
Thank you.
okay.